Welcome, comrades, back to episode number 3 of my Minecraft survival series. My name is Cobblestone, or Sam, and I am going to be getting back into the building, the construction of my home here. I've made a few minor amendments to the scaffolding of the building, which includes kind of extending this area out a little bit more. I'm kind of not basing this off of any pre-existing build that I've done or something that I found on the internet. I'm really just eyeballing it and working from my own imagination of what I am projecting and anticipating the build will look like. Whether that's for better or for worse, it might in fact be the incorrect strategy. This episode I'm going to do a bit of stuff in high-speed mode and off-camera because I have a bit of housekeeping to keep up on and kind of gathering more resources to support a build and to try and actually get some decent armor, which will involve mining as well, as I've been rocking it with nothing but a leather cap for the better part of, well, this entire series, I suppose. And I'm all out of cobblestone and I'm all out of food. I've kind of, I have I suppose a couple of apples, but that really won't be able to sustain me for much longer. So I've put most of the stuff, the items in here that I don't believe are that necessary. Put that away as well. And what this is going to require of me is to go first, find some farm animals, keep track of where I am living. You'll also note that I have 5 bones here because I wasn't able to tame the wolf that I found in episode 1, and we're now on to episode 3, and he hasn't returned, which is most annoying, but that's not the end of the world. There's a little piece of salmon there sitting in the river for me. Very considerate of whoever dropped that salmon. Now let's go on a little adventure down a ways, as I'm going to try and locate some farm animals more distantly from my home, so I'm not driving everything in the area to extinction. This is actually a pretty good seed, it's looking like. There's a jungle over here. I can see some cows. The sun is very quickly setting. That is not to be my advantage, but I'm going to now kill as many animals as I can, and then I'll see you all in a moment. I am back. I just went on a little expedition which included, as I had mentioned, the destruction of many animals in the area, and I found this really like weird looking, I wouldn't even know how to describe it. It's almost like a shrine or like some ritual took place here in the jungle, and everything's on fire and there's stone pieces just floating in the air. I assume this was once connected to something that has since burnt down. I don't really know. It just caught my attention because I could see distantly located a light source in this jungle, and I was immediately attracted to it. But I'm going to leave that. I think the plan will be now is to try and find a cave so I can get started in my mining expedition. I don't know if a jungle is going to be the best sort of possibility of each of the biomes that I might find to locate such a cave that would be bountiful and plentiful with the many resources that I am seeking, most importantly iron, but I'm going to do my best. Also need a bit of shelter, however temporary and makeshift that it might be, so that I can get smelting and cooking with all these meats that I have in my inventory. This selection on offer might be called a butcher with all that's going on in my inventory at the moment, which is good. You know, I won't starve by the looks of things. Is annoying that I found kind of a few of each individual animal as opposed to finding a lot of one animal, because it takes up a lot of room in my inventory and I have to kind of manage multiple different sources of food. But yeah, it's not the biggest problem. Should be able to overcome that fairly easily. Now here's a bit of coal, because I used up my coal on creating these torches. And as part of my build, I'm going to be looking to obtain a variety of different stone sources. Included in that will be andesite, cobblestone, stone, which you get by smelting cobble, and I think mossy cobble as well, and moss block. Though perhaps that might not be in my house, but on some of the other buildings that I have planned to make around my house, I like to think quite realistically when I'm building about what an authentic house and an authentic construction would look like if you're doing a building and you're building a house that is frequently visited. For instance, it'd probably be less likely that it is overgrown with moss and looks like it hasn't been kept very well. Whereas if you are doing something of like an abandoned style building, or not necessarily abandoned, but it hasn't perhaps had this sort of care and attention as it might deserve, then you can look to incorporate some more natural and overgrown elements that might suggest, you know, it's been around and someone hasn't given them the love more recently. And you can think about building in that style more broadly with everything that you create, adding these little like storylines and incorporating what are these like quite minor details into your architecture, but can actually tell a broader narrative about what's happening. I suppose in your survival world, you can definitely incorporate that additional layer on everything that you construct. But if you really are building like themed worlds that multiplayer people are going to like enter the realm of multiplayer and others are going to be playing on, then it's really important that you develop that narrative style to your builds. And I have come across quite an interesting little situation here. Again, I'm finding a lot of coal, not much of any other resources, but that's not to be a major issue. And this also could be good for me to start thinking about taking some of these so I can use them back at my property. I'll have to make a mental note that all of these mossy blocks exist down here if I'm not able to get them now. This cave is proving rather disappointing. I've been kind of searching for a ravine, or if I dug for long enough, I'd kind of happen upon a big expansive cave that I could go far down into and then just like continue making my way through it. While I was thinking about how I should pace out these videos, I did happen to do a minimal, like a very cursory investigation into what similar Minecraft survival Let's Plays are doing, and how other creators on the platform pace their own videos, because it is something like interesting to think about whether like I'm doing things too slowly, I'm doing it too quickly. And what I very quickly found was that I'm on the rather slow side, if it's not already obvious enough to you. Many of the creators that I'd found had already like created their house, that established an entire base and found diamonds and a full suit of armor, and they'd done so all within the first episode, kind of like halfway through the first episode, even some of them. Which, you know, I'm not critiquing that style of gameplay, but I feel like if you're trying to create something, well, I guess, you know, you're not trying to create something that with the same objective that I have, which is go slower and make something that's a bit at a pace that is less frenetic, I suppose. And those people, perhaps they're just going for the raw attraction of doing things really quickly, which is nothing wrong with that, again, but I just find that for me, my taste is something that is slower and kind of not that it doesn't make any progress and we're kind of like stuck at step number 1 there for every single episode. But I think there's a real more of a thrust and a drive on YouTube in 2025 and some of the content that I've seen in the past few years, that there's a recorrection occurring where more creators on the platform, not just in gaming and Minecraft, but are consciously trying to find ways to slow down their content. And I think Minecraft could be one of those games at the forefront of trying to revive what YouTube previously was. I remember when I first started watching Minecraft YouTubers on YouTube, it would have been back in the early days of creators such as Paul Serres Jr., who was one of the first people. I think, in fact, he might even have been the first person to begin to create Minecraft Let's Plays. And as part of this, I'm going to actually try and figure out a way. Whoops. Okay, here we go. I'm still trying to work out this block, but I'm going to try and put some of these like smaller items in here so I can store them away for later. And I do know that there is a limit you can quickly reach if you're putting a lot of stuff in at once, which doesn't take it out of my inventory. Still chewing up those spaces. Back to my point, is that, yeah, some of those earlier creators, they would go a lot slower than you see people going today. And that's kind of my preference. I think that produces better, more engaging and authentic content, and it seems like it's very honest, as opposed to being at a scale that might be larger and perhaps more impressive, but it loses that authenticity that you get when you are taking your time and you're really relishing every moment and opportunity. That is just my thoughts. Again, I might be alone in taking that approach, but chances are if you're watching this video and you're enjoying this content, then maybe you enjoy it too. Whatever. Moving on to the next point. And maybe like just as a final addendum to what I've been saying, is that there are some very popular creators nowadays who are doing that style of content. And it's like, again, it's like a cultural response to the Mr. Beast style videos, if for a lack of a better term, where you're seeing everything like thrown into the audience's face, and there's tons of jump cuts, and cuts and all sorts of like additions and video editing and sound effect and noise. And it's, I don't want to say aggressive, certainly like the algorithm, it's the most effective content for the algorithm if you're like purely just trying to get raw views on your videos, which I don't think should necessarily be the objective of every YouTuber, is to try and get as many views on their videos as possible. But yeah, it's kind of progressing interestingly, and I don't think it's always going to be the case that YouTubers are going to be serving the algorithm or slaves to the algorithm, as it seems. I think you will see a lot of people, not to say that I'm like a creator, I wouldn't consider myself to be a YouTuber. I've made like 3 videos historically, so it would be very kind of flawed for me to take the approach that I'm some like YouTuber. I'm one of them. I can consider myself a YouTuber, and all of like the issues that they face, I face as well. We have a shared destiny, so to speak. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just kind of making an observation, and also at the same time throwing out my opinion that if I were to create videos, which I'm now, then I take a different approach. This is rather boring as I look for a cave down here in this direction, so I'm going to do this off camera and see you all soon. Okay, as you can see, I've been able to find a little cave, I suppose, and I've carved out myself a lit up nook here where I hope I'll be able to pause for a moment and prepare myself for all the combat that I'll have to deal with if I want to explore this cave, as it looks quite daunting out there. There are plenty of mobs that are just lurking the surface, or the cave's floor. And if I have any chance of survival at all, which will include fighting multiple of them at once, it will involve me having to put on some actual armor onto my avatar. For those of you who might be questioning my mining strategy, which involved effectively just digging down into the floor's surface until I reached a suitable place, or like I hoped for the best in that I would come across a cave, I hope you have eaten your words and your thoughts, because it has proved rather effective, however difficult that it is to see what is going on out there. I'm not sure what like type of cave this is. It is rather beautiful, I must say. I think the new additions to the game, there are diamonds there. Fantastic. And there's a zombie I can hear. I'm going to escape him, and then here he comes. Oh. See, only 2 hits and it already drains your health to half, so I'm looking forward to getting a chestplate now. As I said, I'm not going to keep all of this on camera, but at least in the interim, there is something that has caught my attention, I suppose, and some comments that I made in the first episode that I've now thought about a bit more, and that has to do with the updates that have been made to the game more recently, and whether they have in fact improved the game, or whether it's on a downwards trajectory and the developers are doing a bad job at maintaining Minecraft and providing content that people actually want. And I'm getting absolutely hammered by these arrows. Eat quickly. Oh boy. Can't even see the skeleton. Such is his hiding. Rather impressive, I must say. Done. Boy, that does a lot of damage. I'm hoping I'll be able to kind of armor myself up to the point that that won't be to my death. Okay. Only 4.5 armor bars, which is quite pitiful. Anyway, back to what I was just saying, and that was to the extent to which the developers are creating good additions to the game. I think we can sit here all day and we can rattle off ways that we could improve Minecraft and the direction that it could take with regard to new additions, changes, how faithful those changes could be to the original intentions of the game, and whether they fall within the realm of stuff that enhances the experience, or they're just little like one-time tricks that the developers are using to kind of like capture our attention with like new mobs that don't really make sense or really add anything to the game at all. They're just kind of like things that fall into the background and you might happen to encounter once or twice in your survival world if you play the game frequently enough, but are otherwise like pretty pointless. I can hear a skeleton around the corner, which is why I'm trying to ensure that I oh boy, it didn't take knockback there. Yeah, try that. I don't get shot because they're doing a lot of damage. There it is. Done. And I also need some more torches because I am now out of any light and viewers at home will be frustrated. But I think going back to what I was just talking about, look, you can certainly find ways to be critical of the developers. And some of those criticisms would hold up, and you could see that perhaps they didn't go in a direction that makes any sense in the broader kind of context of the game. But at the same time, I think we have to not look at this with too fine of a comb and be trying to point out imperfections or flaws wherever they might manifest and kind of jumping at them. You have to understand that you can't please everyone in a game. I think the gaming community, the Minecraft community, but the gaming community more broadly, is perhaps one of the most critical communities that exist. I think this has in part to do with the fact that gamers spend a chronic amount of time online, and I'm not excluded from that characterization. They spend a lot of time online and obsessing about like minor details in these games, as opposed to like trying to strike the balance of being fair and realistic in what game developers can achieve. And it's important, if we are going to criticize something, that we have to take a fair and balanced approach. You can't be too heavy in one direction, be too critical. While you can, approach it with a level of criticism and say, hey, guys, I think you dropped the ball in this area. Here's how you could make it better, and provide feedback that is constructive. I think a lot of it kind of ends up being just like, oh, it's axolotl. Cool. Stuff that's unfair. People don't provide alternatives to how it could be better. They're just kind of like shouting out into the void and thinking that this is an absolute outrage and that the developers should hang their heads up and resign immediately because they've screwed the game over in such an irreversible and cataclysmic way. And if you really think that, then sure, so be it. I certainly have my criticisms of Minecraft, but I don't think that it's to the point that the game is ruined or the game is unplayable, or that the Minecraft of the modern era is like terrible and I suppose like incomparable to the Minecraft of old, and that it's completely lost its essence and feeling. That is not my perspective, and I think if it were your perspective, then you could really play an older version of the game if it's such a big deal to you. Or you could find a new game. New games are being released all the time. While I think Minecraft is unique, and this is a video title and topic that I want to discuss later into my channel's life cycle. At the risk of like the solution being like, well, if you don't like it, then you should just leave. Because sometimes those criticisms of people's criticisms can be just as bad and unproductive. If you're really not enjoying the direction that Minecraft has gone in the modern era, then perhaps it might be the case that you've kind of exhausted your interest in the game and that it is time for you to play something else, which is completely fair. And I think a lot of people would fall into that category where it's lost the novelty of the game. And when something has lost its novelty, it can quickly like become unenjoyable and less than ideal, and it almost becomes a point like you're flogging a beat horse, so the expression goes, and you're trying to like get something from something that is impossible. Your standards are too high. You have to recognize that things aren't going to be fantastic forever. This game has been around for a long time, and we are all very, very intimately familiar with all of its details and every aspect of the game, which I don't think works in the favor of the developers, as you have so many people who think they know the product better than the actual like owners and developers of the product, which that can create problems in its own right. And while you have to recognize that the passion that people feel for the game is fantastic, it has to be constructive passion, and it can't get to the point of being hated, or like people are just spewing like vile rants about the game, as opposed to trying to think of like genuine ways that it could be better. Anyway, rant over. I sound like a bit of an apologist for the developers, and if I'm excusing some heinous additions to the game that have ruined it, then you can criticize me in response, and I would be open to hearing such criticisms. However, you have to be fair, reasonable, and objective, and not let our sort of emotional relationship and attachment to Minecraft get in the way of trying to find that level of objective, subjective balance. I've let myself just run loosely into this cave, and I've found some items, I suppose, so far that have been pretty good. I have 5 diamonds now, which is enough for an enchantment table, but it's probably not enough to like really secure me in terms of armor. I would like a few more just so I could get a few diamond pieces before I go to the surface. And I'm not stuck with wearing this iron, though at the very least it is good that I'm at last wearing iron. And I should also think about trying to get a water bucket in a few moments time and plug you up, because I don't want to light myself on fire. Yeah, it's probably not the safest bet if I'm just still wandering around. What are you doing down here? Yeah, wandering around without a water bucket, because that is one of the surefire ways that you can die in Minecraft, is burning to death, or like catching on fire and then not being able to put yourself out, and then slowly burning to death as you try and scramble to find a source of water, but do so failingly because you only have moments to live. Sounds absolutely terrible, but fortunately it's an experience you will only likely and hopefully ever have to deal with in Minecraft and not elsewhere. Okay, and see, that is exactly my point. I'm proving myself wrong, but at the same time I'm doing nothing about it. Hope there are no mobs above me, because that would be rather grim if I get knocked into the lava again from something that falls down. There's a diamond vein there. Let's hope it's a bit more abundant than some of the previous veins that I've just had. A 2 and a 3. It's better than a 1. A 1 vein of... Oh, this might be a 1 vein of diamond. A 1 vein is quite a depressing result. And there's 2 vein. Oh, yes! See, you can often keep digging around diamonds. It's always been one of my key tips, is that you dig around the diamond vein, even if you just find 1 or 2, as it's often the case. The next, like, attached vein is not immediately visible, but it's like on a diagonal, if that makes sense. And if you just dig, you'll find it. Probably happens like, I would say like 1 out of 4 times, 1 out of 3 times. But it's definitely worth it just to dig that little bit extra every time, and then you might get lucky. So I think that brings my count to 9. That brings me to 9. You, my friend, are dead. Da 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 da, more diamonds. It looks to be a fairly negligible vein. Once more, that was a blue gem, but not the blue gem I was hoping for in lapis lazuli, but I will collect it anyway, as if once I get enchanting, it'll become more valuable, though at the moment it's kind of a bit of a useless. Whoop, I just fell. Lapis lazuli, yeah, it could be more useful than what it actually is, but at the same time, you know, I appreciate its use in the game. I swear I just saw another piece, but I've lost it now. There looks to be some iron here. Freedom at last. I've made my way out of that cave, that miserable wretch of a hole in the ground, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to make my way back home. And then I can really begin to start contemplating the search for a spruce biome, so I can properly get started. Oh, that is who is hitting me. I was confused. Why, it felt as though I was blocking the arrows, but still getting hit. There's a skeleton behind me and I've lost my loot. Oh my god, there's another. This one has an enchanted bow. If I get hit here, then it could be lights out for me. I survived. I hope there's not another one yet to come. Oh boy, there are multiple over there. They have enchanted bows yet again. See if I can snipe some of them. There's one. Two. Making enemies with the skeletons. So they have more health than I do. And I think they've changed like the trajectory of how arrows shoot in the modern Minecraft era. They don't shoot how they used to. Yes. Turn on each other. Easy pickings for me. How are you still hitting me? Boy, they're skillful, those things. Then they're also very relentless. They just don't give up. They work incessantly to get you killed. I've kind of expended all of my arrows, but I have enough left. And now I'm going to make my way home. Hopefully safely this time, and not have to... Oh. Man. Even able to figure out a way to shoot me through the bamboo. Hey, look. It's the new mobs. Or the textures for the mobs, at least, that make it look a bit more like a boar than a pig. Not that I necessarily know the difference between those two things. And the sheep look the same. Lost my shield. That's okay. I think the boat is somewhere over here. This is where I left it. Well, this is cool. I'm kind of lost. And hey, a new helmet. This one looks like a crown. I'm a bit lost at the moment, I must admit. Oops. Please don't steal my loot from me, Sir Creeper. Yeah, I've kind of struggled to navigate where I live relative to this jungle and this river, but I'm slowly and surely making my way home. Rest assured, I'll be there soon. I am at last at home. I managed to find my way back through the river. It did take a few attempts and hitting dead ends in order to finally navigate back up the river in the opposite direction, and then I had to use coordinates. It was a whole drama, but I'm here now, I'm back, and I'm ready to get smelting with some of these items and then get started on my home. I have a few kind of things that I'd like to rework here with these oak logs. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to be proceeding with this, but I'm going to do that off camera, and then I shall update you all in the next episode with the progress that I have made. My name is Cobblestone or Sam. I thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.